we're going to brainstorm lots of brilliant ideas for content creation, because we've been talking about your offer. We've been talking about making offers. We've been talking about messaging, but what do you do with that messaging? How do you actually use it in your day-to-day? How does that translate into the actual content that you publish on the internet to lure your people in? If you have had the chance to review or have done fairly recently the Mercury messaging workshop, of which there is a recording in paid, you're going to find this easiest because you've already have your kind of map of an offer and the big promise and the thing the kind of three pillars that hold it all up. And we did that in the Mercury messaging workshop. If you haven't done that, just hang in there and keep up, and there'll be a replay of this and there's a replay of that, and it's all good and you'll get the gist, and it's still good. So you might be feeling one of these things at the moment. You might be feeling like, oh, I'm just blocked. I sit down, I open Facebook to write my content and I'm just like, I don't know what to say. Drawing a blank, creatively blocked. You might feel like you are doing quite well. You're like posting anyway, but just not getting anything back. No traction, no engagement, no feedback. It's screaming into the void moment. Or you might feel like you've got a little core group of cheerleaders who enjoy and engage on and comment and like the things you post, but they are already people who have said no. It's like your auntie, that it's people who aren't buying from you right now. If you're posting and you're getting engagement and you're getting interest from people who are buying from you, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you're one of those three things, like you're blocked, or you're just getting nothing back, or you're getting some engagement but no sales, then stay tuned. So if you are drawing a blank, it is very often, well, for me anyway, and I suspect for you too, it's very often that somewhere inside I am detached from my highest calling and my strongest self and my favorite self. It means that somewhere inside I am thinking that I am not prepared enough, not professional enough, not coherent enough, that my offer isn't good enough, that my audience is wrong. I've already decided that there's some really good reason why anything that I write will be wrong and won't achieve what I want it to achieve. So if you're feeling blocked, and I could and probably should run an entire session on getting over writer's block, creative block. But if you're in that position, then for goodness sake, and for all of our sakes, and for your sake, and for your business sake, don't just sit there flogging it. If that's how you're feeling, you have to get into a place where you are sold on what you're selling. You have to be sold on you before you can sell you. So whatever that means you need to do, whether you need to do a breathwork practice, or whether you need to do a Netflix and ice cream binge, whether you need to scream it out, whether you need to walk in nature, whether you need to connect with the elements, whatever you need to do, down tools. And the first aid is to be given to your committed surrender to the spirit of your business and being sold on you. It's a process, and it increases, it increases and it becomes easier. But if you can even just raise that percentage by just 2%, everything else is going to feel 25%, 50%, 100% easier. If you are in the next category of people where you're posting fairly regularly, but you're just not getting engagement, then I would like you to invent. I'm just writing down a connect to client meditation. That would be a good one, wouldn't it? But to sit down and we talked about it this a little bit in the paid call last week, attuning to your ideal client. So rather than try and think about who they are, try to like feel their energy. Now this becomes confusing when we imagine like, oh, I have to imagine like a specific person, but you can invent this person. Your ideal client can be simply a figment of your imagination, excuse me, but you can, like flesh that person out, use your imagination, do a whole like daydream and get into their energy, and then ask, what does this person need to hear? What do they need to hear today? So then it becomes more of like a channeling exercise rather than thinking, how am I gonna convince somebody, or what do I need to say in this post? And it also will awaken you to the energetics of the language that you're using. So this often happens, right? This very, very often happens. I see this in copy all over the internet, where people are, and you may be doing this too. I know I have definitely done it and probably still do it more often than I would wish, but you are you're going after the wrong client. Our natural tendency is to kind of go into explaining and persuading mode. But those aren't our ideal clients. And I'm going to give you a concrete example of how those two types of language compare, because the secret of like really persuasive copywriting is so incredibly easy that it's actually really hard to get. So let me finish telling you about what I mean about going after the wrong client. So if you are attuning to a client who is really struggling, like a huge percentage of the world's population, it can be difficult to remember this as like kind of self-actualized or actualizing beings, but a huge percentage of the population, the communities that we live within are basically fucking struggling to get through every single day. And if you're talking to those people and trying to inspire people about like how amazing it's going to be after working with you, excuse me, expansive gesturing, how amazing it's going to be after they work with you, it can be really incredibly difficult for people to even have the headspace. It can feel painful. You know, if people are really going through some shit and you tell them that they can transform their life, that can be painful to hear, because it's like, no, it's not that easy. It can be really hard to inspire people who are going through shit. I don't know if you've ever sat with somebody who's going through a really hard time. What you want to be doing in that situation as a friend is not trying to inspire them, it's to hold space for them. But if you're marketing, if you're trying to promote your goods and services to somebody who's not in a space where they're really able to be inspired in that moment, you're making it really a lot harder on yourself. So instead, you can make the decision when you're imagining this ideal client, you can attune, you can decide that they are a person who is empowered, who is taking action, who is already looking for your solution. They've heard of life coaching. They're looking for a life coach. They want to see what life coaching can do for them. Or they have decided that they want to find a psychic medium that they can check in with on a regular basis. So attune yourself to a client who is ready to buy rather than a client who needs a lot of persuading to get there. Those clients in that group, the struggling group, if they're meant to be for you, they will find you by you using, they will still find their way to you by you using this language. Now, let me give you an example of the two different kinds of language. Okay, I'm keeping this very general and not to a specific niche, but okay, so here's example number one. Open quotes. Do you feel like you've tried everything? Do you feel exhausted and frustrated and that nothing you do will work? Okay, that's example one. What kind of client, what kind of person do you think is gonna like resonate with that kind of statement? This is what I mean by the energetics of language. Compared to, open quotes, which you know you were meant for more in this one and beautiful life. Let's go. Okay? What kind of client is going to resonate with that kind of language? So just like it's a muscle. It's not easy, but it's something that when you have in mind, it can be as simple as a note to say, my future client is empowered and looking for a solution, and she's ready to spend her money on me. So you remember that you're not talking to somebody who is identifying as somebody who stays stuck. Do you see? I'm going to read that first statement again, the one that we don't want to do. Do you feel like you've tried everything? Do you feel exhausted and frustrated and stuck? We don't want to attract people who identify as stuck. Guess what kind of clients they're going to turn out to be? Are they the kind of clients that are going to get the best results from working with you? Or is it the ones who go like, okay, let's go. This is going to be great. Jump in. I know you're ready. Those are the people that you want to work with. And those are the people who like act. It's like no disrespect at all to the people who are struggling, but you're here running a business, not a charity, as they say. You're here running a business. And if they want you, they'll find their way to you. So attuning your language, attuning to the language. Does your ideal client resonate with ideas of struggle? Or is she looking for a solution? If she's looking for a solution, all you have to tell her is like how cool yours is. Say, oh, you're looking for a solution? I've got one. Here, we do this. And following this strategy, you are going to appeal to the thinkers, and you're going to appeal to the feelers. The people, we're all led by feelings, but some people like to think they're led by logic. They're wrong. We're all just led by our heart. But let's like just not focus our attention on the people who are really connected to and attached to struggle. Okay. If you are getting engagement on your social media content, you're putting it out there, you're getting engagement, but you're not making sales, this is going to become less of an issue when you are talking to the right clients. When you are talking to the right people, if you're getting engagement on your post, then those people are hot leads, and they're much easier to sell to than those other people. Okay. So it will be less of an issue, but what you will have in mind is, what energy am I bringing into my copy? Where am I holding back? How can I make sure that my content is ultimately pointing people towards purchasing from me? So in other words, being strategic about your content. And this is something that we talk about in paid and we talk about in demand as well, because when you're attracting the right people into your orbit, into your energy field, and they're ready to buy, there's just some like simple steps to move to hit. I say move through, but people don't always go through them consecutively. But there are certain points in the journey between being a stranger and being a customer. So we just want to make sure that your content is kind of hitting those marks somewhat, rather than always be connecting with people but never selling, or always be teaching but never showing your warm, fuzzy side. Let's talk about your content map thing. I've put it away again. Before I do that, I know there's a temptation when I like blare lots and lots of information at you for you to think that you need to implement it all. You do not. The algorithm cares less and less about your consistency, about how consistent you are. So don't bother posting every single day unless you're feeling it. And save your genius for when you are actually promoting something. Don't flog yourself to grow an audience. It'll catch up when you're promoting something. But what you can be consistent with is like moving forward with heart. Like the absolute 100% best content that you can put out there, aside maybe from testimonials, but it's you, it's your authentic self-expression. It's you teaching on things that interest you. It's you doing what lights you up. It's you embodying the work you do. It's you demonstrating how you embody the work you do. It's like showing it. And then you are a walking, talking advertisement for your work. We've all heard about the know, like, and trust thing. People become customers when they know you and like you and trust you. it's hackneyed, it's a cliche, but if people seeing you walking your, doing what you say you do, living as expansively as you promise that they will, then the trust part is there. Not all mouth and trousers. So as a very blunt example, is that even a saying? I feel like that used to be a saying. It was here anyway. A very blunt example. If you promise, if you are a sovereignty coach and you're complaining all the time on your feed, okay? That would be a big one. It creates a cognitive dissonance in your audience. They're saying, oh, she's saying one thing, but look. So let's talk about creating content. So start with your big map. And your big map, your big message map, has in the middle what is essentially your offer. It may not be the lovely, catchy, alliterative name that you have chosen for it. I'm not talking about naming it, but what is like the big promise or the big solution or the big problem. So first think about the big thing your audience wants. And if it's something like, I'm going to pick an example because this has come up in the last week. If somebody wants to have finished writing their first book, just dig a little bit deeper than that. Why do they want it? Why do they want that? And what's the real one reason, the big reason, the one that, like the true reason that they haven't already done it? Okay, so those things in some combination are the big promise of your offer. It's either like get something or fix something, right? The next, if you recall, it ends up looking like a spider like this, or it could also look like a family tree with the offer at the top. And then beneath that, you have the three main blocks, barriers, challenges in the person's way, why they haven't got it already, why they haven't written their book already. They're creatively blocked. They don't have a consistent writing practice and they don't have accountability. Or 3 reasons why they're not living their healthiest, vibrant life. They don't know what to eat. They have a sedentary life and they secretly hate themselves. I don't know. Like, what are the three main things? And then if you remember again from the messaging workshop, we are going to promise, we're going to reverse engineer 3 lovely, happy outcomes, which are the opposite of those challenges or problems. So instead of secretly hating yourself, you will outwardly love yourself. Instead of living a sedentary lifestyle, you'll find like joyful, self-expressive movement. And instead of eating terribly, you will eat intuitively and feel much better for it. So the 3 pillars you promise, we reverse engineer those from the blocks so that everything's like completely in alignment. There's not a little here where, well, that sounds great, but I'm not sure how it addresses my problems. The other thing we did with the message map was write loads of, I think we did color coding, and we wrote about the feelings that people have, about the challenges that they have, and about the things that they want to achieve. We wrote about the outcomes. We wrote about the actions that people will take, the things they will do differently, like choosing different foods when you're shopping, or choosing different ways to spend your time, or choosing different responses to triggers or stimuli. We talked about feelings, outcomes, actions. Oh, and meaning. The meaning is the meaning is huge. Wherever you can, just like think about how you can add in so that you can. So that people are even thinking beyond, like, what's the benefit of the benefit? What does the transformation allow to happen next? And that's where the kind of vision and imagination and really beautiful thing comes in. And that's why you don't want to be talking to people who don't actually even believe that the first level of transformation is possible. So at the end of the Mercury messaging class, the assignment was to basically write up your whole offer. Write it up as if you were going to explain it from beginning to end. This is the promise. This is the big problem people have. Here's how I solve it from them. Here's how they feel before. Here's how they feel after. Just like write out everything. So it's like, a piece of writing that you can read, edit, that you can read aloud, that you can read it to a study buddy. Now, I don't want you to spend weeks and months on this. This is the work of like 2 days to write it out, read it aloud, find somebody to read it to, and just get it to a point where it all makes sense and kind of lands with you. And there is one piece of content, okay? That is your masterpiece of content for this offer. It can be updated, it can be refined, it can evolve as your offer evolves, which it will. But if you go back and complete that Mercury messaging class and do the assignment at the end, which is to just like know your offer inside out by writing it out, everything through, what's your process? Because as well, there's 3 things that you teach to remove each block. So that's like 9 methodologies, 9 steps that you teach to achieve this whole thing. There's a lot there. That is a lot of content in itself. So there is your one big masterpiece of content for talking about this offer. So let's imagine that you have that document open in front of you, and maybe you did do the homework, and maybe you do have it open in front of you, and it's probably, I'm going to say, about like, it's probably a couple of pages long, at least, if you're talking about like the big problem and how are people feeling and what are the blocks and how do you alchemize them and what steps do you take people through. There's a good chunk there. So then what you can do to start generating more and more content from it is zoom in. So, for example, let's just do this now. I'm sure that you can all name one of the pillars of success that you teach. So one of the blocks and what you turn it into. So the block is creative, the block is writer's block, the challenge is writer's block, and you turn it into creative flow. Or the challenge is people pleasing, and you turn it into fearless self-expression. So just identify one of those kind of turnarounds that you facilitate or teach as part of your offer. So just like pick one. Because if you have three of those, then that's going to be 3 more posts, right? So you can pick one now, and then you can do the other 2 later on this evening, or each, when you come to write the content. So it's then pretty easy to just go into a little bit more detail about one block and one pillar. So you would copy that section from your document, paste it into a new document or a new social media window, expand on it a little bit more, right? Maybe, so then now you've got maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs on that one piece. So read it through, make sure that you're including outcomes and meanings. And so feelings and actions are really important to include, but if you're like doing social media posts and you haven't got so much space, then naming the outcomes of your work, what happens, what do people actually get from it, is so much more important than like how the calls they're going to go on or the meditations that they're going to do. And when we talk about meanings, like what that means for people, what that enables to happen, what that transformation, like the ripple effects of it, that tends to create feelings in the reader anyway, without you having to name them. Speaking of naming emotions, I told you that the secret to writing really powerful copy is just so devastatingly simple, but it boils down to this, that the reader is highly suggestible. I believe that reading specifically, well, actually language is kind of, when people are receiving information, they are they're suggestible. So in order to make, it's so embarrassing, in order to make somebody feel something in your copy, all you have to do is name that emotion. Name the emotion. If you say, this is exciting, people start to feel excited about it. If you say, you will be happy to know, people feel happy to know, okay? It's that simple. If you want people to fill in a form and return it to you, you say, just fill in the form, click the link and return it to me. It's like just naming what you want to happen so clearly. Use a thesaurus, because copywriters all over the world use this a lot. So if you can find a slightly less frequently used version of the emotion that you're trying to name, so saying like blissful or ecstatic or delighted or overjoyed or something instead of happy, then it just helps it helps it stand out. But the other interesting thing is that like there's so many like nuance to emotion that people will feel that nuanced emotion. So like, choose it. Why would you want somebody to feel happy if they could feel delighted or blissful or overjoyed? You know, choose a better word for how you want people to feel. Thesaurus for emotions, yes. So if we have our one piece of master content, there's one piece of content. And we also then can create some content around like the 3 blocks and the 3 pillars. So now we've got 4 pieces of content. And then for each of those like 2 to 3 paragraphs that you have written about a block or a pillar, you can zoom in closer again. It's almost like a fractal. So for every one of the steps of your methodology, that is another social media post. So now you've probably got, I don't know, if we were talking about like 3 different blocks and 3 different pillars of success and your main thing, then we've got 7 pieces of content. And if you walk through people through the steps of your methodology, now you have like 21 something pieces of content. So you can see where this is going, right? Because the more you zoom in and give and like expand on like just certain sections, you don't want to put this all together into one big post, which is 25 pages long. But by getting really familiar with it and talking about specific aspects of your offer, this is how you gain a position of authority, because you are always essentially talking about the same thing, but with increasing levels of nuance, with increasing what do I want to say? Like the mastery of like how you connect the pieces between what your client is going through and your methodology. You don't start off as an authority. You gain authority and acquire authority by becoming more authoritative in the way you talk about your subject. And you gain that by learning about it. And you learn about it by studying it and writing about it and turning in your assignments. So your genius, a lot of it will be in how you connect these pieces and where are the like unique intersections between what you know, what you teach, the expertise you've acquired, and who you are, your past experience, that like what makes you a different energy worker or psychic medium or life coach or polyamory coach or book coach, what makes you different from all of the others. And it's always something to do with your past experience, whether you have like physical differences or neurological differences or mental health differences, or you had a particularly unique experience of growing up, or like whatever makes you different is a potential source of like more interest and more depth when you start going deeply into your methodology and your success pillars. So I want to give you I want to leave some time for questions about this. The question that always comes up when people are talking a lot about their methodology is, well, if I tell everybody all about my program and everything I do, why would they then work with me? Why would they not just heal themselves by consuming my free content? And my standard answer to that, which it still stands, but I'm going to expand on it as well. So my standard answer to that is, if somebody consumes all your content for free and achieves this transformation for themselves, that is some of the best marketing you can get, that you can say, like, this bitch cured herself from my free content. Can you even imagine how powerful it is to work with me? Okay. So if somebody wants to do that, awesome. They will be your biggest fan, and they want to get them to write a testimonial. Get them to say, I transformed my business from her free content. And the other reason is that what people really want to pay for, I believe, is much less information. Like, we live in an absolute information glut, right? There's no shortage of information. Everything I teach about marketing can be found on the internet. Everything you teach, I'm sure, can be found in various places on the internet. It's not so much about information. It's how it's put together by you is one thing, but the main thing is like how to implement it, how to actually do it, how to embody it, how to not just understand it on an intellectual level, but get the results from it. And that's what happens when people who work for you. So there is an argument, I'm turning it over in my head right now, there is an argument for just making all of your content free, essentially, and just have people pay to implement with you, because people have different circumstances. People need hand-holding and accountability. People have questions. So even if you were to decide to give away all your expertise and knowledge for free, it's not a recommendation. I'm just saying it's not something you need to be terrified of. If you were to give that all away for free, you could still make a lot of money by helping people to implement it and act on it and embody it and be it and do it. And that would be your job. And it would actually be really cool, because you wouldn't have to teach anybody anything, because they would have already learned it from your free content. So you could just like jump in and get straight on with the doing with them. So I just offer that as an alternative thing that might be as true as I can't give away all my expertise, because then people won't work with me. Yes? I know one guy who has a 60-minute YouTube video that companies pay him to repeat to their people. Okay. Yes, exactly. So you can have a template. This guy maybe he could have like a script for the same video, the essential, like a template, how to do it, how to do this. And maybe there are companies who do that, but there are also companies who are like, actually, we don't want to go through the hassle of doing that. Can you just do it for us? So that is like definitely a possibility for service industries, videographers, copywriters. There's always, for those people who want it done for them, but for the people who want it done with them as well, just to be there and doing it with them. That's the value. The value isn't necessarily your expertise. It's being in your energy that's valuable. Okay. So, would it be useful? I feel like I've barely drawn back breath for 40 minutes now. So I think what I'm going to do is just take a 5 to 7 minute break, which I would like you to use to just write down ideas, subject matter ideas based on your message map. I'm going to give you 5 minutes so that you can just write out, just like be absurd, write as long a list as you can of possible things that you could talk about based on your message map, and like go off on tangents as well. Like if you can think of any way to inject the ridiculous, the absurd, the illogical, the upside down, the makes no sense, then like anything that you can add that it adds an element of surprise is awesome. So what I'm saying is don't constrain yourself to just the stuff that you've already written down in the messaging workshop. Let your creativity flow, and just make this ideas generation session about quantity rather than quality. Just like get down as many ideas as you can as a list, like write fast, automatic writing, write down as many as you can. Don't judge them whether they're any good or any bad. Let's just let it flow for 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to get a glass of water. I'm going to come back. Okay, pens down. I'm only kidding. You can keep writing. I hope you've got a lovely long list of ideas. People are still eagerly writing away, and don't stop by all means. If you're in flow, keep going. But we're not finished yet, because I want to talk to you about the different kinds of content so that you can get some like variety and rhythm and flow in your content marketing. Because the different kinds of, so I posted the names here in the chat. And they each serve a different purpose in kind of getting people like warmed up to your brand. And like people are already hot to your brand, but it's just more like a different purpose in appealing to what like people learn in different kind of ways, right? Some people really respond to video. Some people like to read a long form thing. Some people just like the bright, punchy like headline. And prefer to like interact. So we want to like hit as many points as possible. And I think I said right at the beginning about appealing to the thinking people and to the feeling people, appealing to those who like to move fast, appealing to those who like to move slowly, just so that we're taking as much money as possible, right? Of course. So the first type of content, you have probably heard all of these terms before. I'm just going to go over them quite quickly and give you some examples. But what I would like you to do is take one of your colored pens or crayons or highlighters and decide upon a color for engagement. Because as I'm describing some examples of this type of content, I'd like you to look over your list and mark them in some way that those that you think might make cool engagement posts. You might need to make some additional notes, but let me talk about it, and you have a look and mark off which ones kind of lend themselves to engagement content like this. So engagement posts, engagement content, a big part of them is to tickle the goblins that live inside the social media algorithms. We've all experienced when we post a selfie, felt cute, might delete later, or our kitten or our kids, and it gets absolutely spammed with likes and comments, and then we post our offer and it's crickets. That means that the engagement post, the selfie or the kids or the kitten has done its job. So the purpose of engagement content is to generate activity on your profile. Is to get people engaging on your profile so that the next time you post, when you post your authority content or you make your offer, plenty of people see it. If you always, this came up earlier this week as well, if you're always and only posting offers, it's famous and well known that nobody comments, nobody really engages on offer posts. So if that's all you're posting, that becomes like a self-fulfilling kind of downward spiral where the social media, where the algorithm goblins are going like, nobody likes this shit. Let's bury it. Nobody's picking this up. So you want to include stuff on your profile that's really easy for people to engage with. Like, tell me a book that changed your life. If you can get it to relate to your offer and content, even better. So like you'll be able to come up with content that only your ideal client would really be interested in answering. So for example, I'm about to go into a period of launching my higher ticket group Demand at the moment. So let me see if I can think of a question that only my ideal clients for Demand would be would have an answer for. So if I said, do you have you run a group program and want to know how to scale up for consistent income? Or have you run a group program and then felt you need to find another offer? Or have you successfully, like, how did your last launch go? Like, questions, like, my ideal clients for demand are people who have already launched and delivered in some capacity a group program. So if I ask questions about group programs and do they have one? Have they done one? Do they want to scale it? How did it go? By definition, only my ideal clients are going to answer that post, right? So open-ended questions. But yes, a book that changed your life is a great one. Get loads of interaction. What's your favorite crystal? You'll get loads of interaction. You don't want to only do engagement posts, but if you do, like, if you spend quite a lot of time on engagement posts, you'll get a lot of people looking at your profile, a lot of eyes on your profile, and the algorithm goblins will be going, this is good shit. Let's keep serving this out. What are some other ideas? So we did ask for recommendations. We did create a poll. Now, you can't do a poll where you like tick a telegraph box on a public profile. You can only do that in a group, but you could say, you know, this or that. Do you prefer this or that? You could ask people to name their favorite tools or methods that are kind of related or adjacent to your work, a scale of 1 to 10, or a scale of like vomit emoji to ecstatic emoji, from a scale of that to that. How do you feel about X? So just questions that are just so easy for people to, what's your favorite emoji? Questions that is so easy for people to answer. Share an unpopular opinion. What's something you learned embarrassingly late in life? But as you're looking through your list of things now, just pick out where you can see that you might be able to find some questions to ask your audience. Also, share selfies. The goblins really do love to see your face. Okay, so the next type of content I want to talk about is connection content. Now, you might have a fairly good idea of who you are, but we hope that, and we trust that there are new people joining your audience every week, and that how much do they know about you? And this is where you can build out your business persona to give people a sense of the kind of person they will be working with. Now, this could be in how you share what behind the scenes looks like for you. For example, how you energetically prepare for your work. It could be sharing your backstory, how you came to do this work. It could be talking about something that you feel is really cool and unique about what you do. It could be like your personal reflections on what you do and like why you do it, your big why, your vision and your mission, so that people get a better understanding of you and your business. So I hope you've selected a color for connection and making notes on your list or coloring it in on your list where you might be able to identify this kind of connection content. So behind the scenes of your client calls, if that's part of your program, or behind the scenes of developing a ritual, if that's part of your methodology, or writing your notes, or just like giving people a glimpse into what it's like to be you. This is where the living your work, embodying your work comes in. And you'll notice as well that lots of the ideas on your list have more than one color next to them, and actually lots of ideas fall into multiple different categories and could create multiple different posts. This is how you end up with like hundreds of ideas just based on that one masterpiece of content, which was you getting really familiar with your messaging about your offer. So what if we talk sharing behind the scenes, sharing the story of how you do what you do, sharing about the education that you had in what you do, sharing like snippets of your interests that aren't necessarily immediately and obviously related to the work that you do, but you know that they are because they meet at the intersection that is you. Talking about your influences, or your teachers who has influenced your work and how they inform your work. So the next color to grab is, I would go for red or orange for authority. you will respect my authority. It's incredibly important to demonstrate, just like, you don't have to do it in a serious way, but you have to know what you're talking about. You have to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. Because if you were in last week's call, you'll remember that people have legitimate fears about spending money with people that they don't know. People don't want to be, it's not even that they don't, of course they don't want to be scammed, and they don't even necessarily think they will be, but they just don't want to be disappointed. So this is about like demonstrating. So mark with your red or your orange with your strong, bold hand to signify your authority. How are you going to be demonstrating? How are you going to demonstrate your understanding of the obstacles that your clients face? And you do that. You demonstrate your understanding by talking about them with nuance and with depth. So when you're creating content in this way, if one of the obstacles in your client's way, for example, is people pleasing, because that's come up a few times over the last week, then you will be able to write at length and in depth about where that urge comes from, and the fight, flight, or fawn response, and childhood trauma, and complex PTSD, and you like go wild. You can go deep into it, because it gives your audience the understanding, as long as they know that people pleasing is what is going on for them, they will recognize themselves. They will recognize themselves in your words. That's part of the sales process that we share. It all interlinks so beautifully. It's like a jeweled web. What else you can do? You're demonstrating your understanding. Another way to express your authority, to show your authority, to show your understanding and expertise, is to share an overview, like share your framework or your methodology. Talk about why, like the three things that you offer, your three success pillars, how you selected them, and why you selected them, an overview of how you work. What we're thinking about is when we talked earlier about what does your ideal client need to hear, I don't want you to think in terms of what does your ideal client need to hear in order to buy, but just genuinely, what does she need to hear today to feel better? What does she need to hear today to feel like she's taken a little step towards the solution that she's looking for? What does she need to hear today to realize that you're the person who understands what she's going through? Not because she's going to buy immediately, but just so her attention is got. For some reason, I just had the memory of talking about planetary magic and altar offerings being signaling to the gods in a sparkling cocktail party. You want to get Hermes' attention, and he has every nymph in the heavens falling at his feet, and you want to get his attention, so you burn his incense and you get his olive oil and you sing and you recite his hymn. So it's not about immediately wanting to get something from this person in your audience, but what do they need to hear in order to hear you? What do they need? What will capture their attention? What shift in perspective does she need today? Imagine if you were just kind of coaching and encouraging and cheerleading a friend who was seeking a solution. Then it might mean that you're sending them, the other day I was ranting against posting irrelevant memes. But if they're relevant memes, you might be sending her relevant memes, encouragement, and positive messages, and a little bit of advice and a perspective shift. I want you to be a cheerleader and a beacon for your ideal client. What else for authority? Go on a rant, take a strong position for or against something that you see in your industry, explode a myth. Lots of people say that, but I say no. And yes, invite debate, polarizing statements, take a stand, show your colors. That works great for engagement as well. And, even if you get detractors and naysayers, that is all good for the algorithm goblins. So we've talked about, what have we talked about? Engagement. We've talked about connection. We've talked about authority. I'm gonna throw in with authority social proof. Credibility. Again, most people don't engage on this kind of content, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. This is sharing a screenshot of somebody saying, wow, that was an amazing session. Sharing a screenshot of somebody talking about the results that they've had with you. I got the job. I finally perfected I finally hit, I don't know what you do. Screenshots of results. Also, you publicly celebrating the results of your client. You don't have to name them, but if you can, that's really awesome. But you publicly talk about the results that your clients get and their backstory. You can anonymize it if it's private, just like anonymize the details. Share testimonials, screenshots, or pretty designs. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this kind of as a sidebar because it's not stuff that's on your messaging thing, but it's just like so valuable to pepper in there, to include in there, because I think we all do this thing. I certainly do it, where you collect testimonials and then never publish them. Speaking of which, must remind me to talk to you about video testimonials, and writing up like a case study, like actually walking through the whole story of like what was going on before they worked with me, what did we work on together, and how was life different afterwards, and sharing your achievement. And then the last piece is the offers. So refer to the death by email sequence that's in paid, but as well as all of this, the engagement, the connection and authority, you need to be posting your offers. Straightforward offer posts where you share the transformation, you share the benefits, you share the features. I've said this before in this session. You'll hear me say it often. These kind of posts tend to get the least engagement of any type of content, but post them anyway. And that's why we do the engagement post as well. And that's why we don't want every single post to be an offer post, because that will tend to drive engagement down. And the reason why we care about engagement is what? So that more people see your offer posts. So your offer post could be seeding the idea, or I have a limited number of places. It can literally be the copy from your sales page or your sign up page if you have one. You know what to do about posting the offer. Generally, just be like as direct as you can. People won't engage. It doesn't matter. They will still see it. Stick a call to action on it and you're good to go. The bottom line is, my friends, that if you're not promoting, you're not going to sell. The thought to keep having, the thought to indoctrinate yourself into is that when I sell, I make sales. Because it's true. If you don't sell, you won't make sales. And all of this content, if it's like relating somehow to this offer and you're getting the sprinkling of these different types of content in there, this is all going to be like increasing the amount of energy and attention. And just like I get the image of like neurons just kind of like fizzing like fireflies, just like tiny sparks of attention as people begin to notice your offer and then pay more attention. It's kind of incremental, but it's also cumulative and it's exponential. Like you don't have to post 100% more frequently to get 100% more clients. You probably only have to post 10% more frequently, or make your copy, make your content 10% more engaging or creative or fun or unexpected or something. Small gains is what I'm saying, have huge effects. So stick with it.